Hey guys, and welcome back. This is ChosenArchitect. Today we're jumping back into some more mechanical mastery. So I hope you guys are ready. So today I jump back into my mechanical mastery world, and I have to say some things have changed. There was actually a couple of updates, believe it or not, which I was kind of surprised by, given the age of the pack thus far. But the pack did update, which is pretty cool. It added applied energistics. It added the trash can mod that I was needing. Well, now I don't need anymore, but was needing or could have used. It added a couple of other things, which was kind of nice, and updated create and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Like, all of this stuff was, I mean, not super game changing, but it is nice to have some updated mods and making sure everything is nice and updated in its current form. So in that regards, some things changed. Like, for example, all the create textures are now the new textures, and all of the create mechanics are now in the new form. And it's kind of cool that create was able to literally make the transition almost seamless. Like, the fact that create was able to update and literally change tons of mechanics and UI elements and stuff like that, and allow you to have your same world that you had before is pretty insane. So let me talk about a couple of things that I've done with my reactor here. So at the moment, I'm still building up the pellets. I still need the polonium pellets, and that is what's almost maxed out to be able to make the SPS, which is something that I definitely want to get set up as soon as I can. As soon as we have the amount of that, the SPS needs to get set up so we can start producing antimatter as soon as possible. And this will just run on its own. I don't actually need to do anything. Believe it or not, this is maxed out. I went ahead and added some extra chemical oxidizers to make more uranium oxide. I'm just extending from here. And this is piped into the top, which is also receiving this. And then I also added the chemical oxidizers from last time. However, I made sure it shut off because I decided to use these pressurized tubes like a dummy, which hold a lot of sulfur. And so what I have here is I have a basic chemical tank, and it emits a redstone signal whenever it has over a bucket inside of it. And so what I'm doing is I'm shutting off all of my exporters when this has at least a bucket of this gas worth in here, 1,000, I don't know what it's called, millibuckets worth of the gas. Which is a pretty interesting way of shutting it off, because I don't think there's a way of detecting how much stuff is inside the quantum entangle porter unless it's completely filled. I don't think there's a way. So I decided to come up with this, and this did work. So I was able to send the items through here. It can fill the whole thing. It would have to fill the machine first, and then it will fill this tank instead of the pipe, and that would allow the redstone to be detected. So that's just one of many things that I had to do during this update. I also noticed all of my power was sort of gone on a lot of machines, and what I ended up needing to do was put my plug here on our induction matrix that's connected to our main network, and then that actually got everything back up and running, believe it or not. I think I was being a little bit limited on my power after hooking in all these machines, but what I've gone ahead and done is upgraded this to the nitro. Since we already have now wither automation, I went ahead and upgraded this to nitro. So now this can input and extract 2 million Fe per tick. So no longer will I have an issue with supplying all of my ender gates, right? And I can still use these same ender gates. These still have a limit of 20k individually per tick input and output, I believe. But that's not an issue for almost every machine. There's very few machines that are actually going to cause a problem with input amount. The only ones that will cause problems, I believe, are the chemical dissolution chambers. It's one of these machines here that costs a lot of RF to run, like over 20,000, which is when I actually run into an issue with these. So now that we're producing quite a bit of power, right? We're producing, I believe it was like 500,000 RF per tick coming from this thing alone, which this can produce, by the way, up to, if we're giving it enough water, up to 1 million on its own RF per tick, which is more than enough to cover every machine that we have laying around. So for right now, we're doing pretty good with power. However, I do want to increase that, not necessarily today, but I do want to increase that with the SPS. And that's going to involve setting up a 25 million RF per tick production. And I think it's a really fun way of making power, and that is through industrial foregoing and setting up the mycelial reactor. Now, my ultimate plan for today is to hopefully get the SPS up and running, but that is not the only thing we're going to work on today, because we have almost everything ready to go. Now, we're going to need a lot of power once the SPS is up and running. That's something we'll probably set up next episode, and we'll build the mycelial reactor, and I hope we can get that thing set up in a reasonable way. I really hope so. But what we're going to have here is we need to set up the precision mechanisms. So while we're waiting for all of our ingredients for the SPS to finish up crafting, I can go ahead and set up a simple precision mechanism automation. This is actually really simple. It looks tedious at first, but I'm going to show you a way that we can automate this and make it really, really easy. So for this, I need to create a few items. One of them is going to be a vault. This is a really cool item here that pretty much is the size of a barrel. However, it doesn't allow us to access its inventory, but its inventory can extend further than a normal chest. So this right here can be accessed from all sides, and now is this multi-connected extended inventory. This is going to work out really, really well for what we are going to be doing next, which is going to be setting up the things that are going to basically poke the ingredients into the mechanism. So let's actually pull up the mechanism. This right here. As you can see, it's also an 80%, so I don't recommend setting this up on a on-demand craft, where you basically have this set up on an exporter that's exporting this item out. What I recommend is potentially, which I hope this works in the future, I want it to have a certain amount of them always crafted, and I want it to work in that regard. And hopefully we can kind of limit the amount of these that get used, but keep a certain amount in stock. And so with this particular setup is going to be doing things totally different than all the other crafts that we have done thus far. So I am going to need a set of deployers. Thankfully, I have quite a few. These are going to go right here. I think I need the create wrench, don't I? Gotta always get that create wrench. And this needs to be rotated in this direction. And also, gotta get that. I want the outer edge to be kind of facing into one another. If I can get that to happen, that'd be great. Oh, that's completely the opposite of what I needed. So many different ways of setting up the create stuff, and it can be kind of finicky from time to time. Okay, so that's still rotated the wrong way. Let's see, can I stand like right here and place this in? There we go. Now it's rotated the right way, just facing the wrong direction. There we go. So I want these to all be able to be connected to one another. It does show a preview, doesn't it? That's kind of cool. I think that's new. So if I just right click instead of shift right clicking, yep, there we go. Now they're all placed in the proper order. So this is pretty much how it's going to go. We'll need some trap doors on this. Let's go ahead and put some trap doors down. And the trap doors, actually I should probably use acacia trap doors, kind of fit the rest of everything. This is going to prevent items from jumping off of this belt. The belt should hopefully be spinning in this direction. We also need some funnels, and these are going to end up being filtered. And so we're going to have a funnel that's pulling out, and then a funnel that's inserting onto this side, creating a loop, essentially. And then what we're going to need is a way to pull the items out of here when they're done. And believe it or not, we should be able to pull the items directly out of this item vault without needing any other intervention. We should be able to potentially use an importer on the actual item vault itself. Now to power this whole setup, it's pretty straightforward. I don't know, it's really hard to explain how to set things up with create anymore. But in this particular setup, I just need to get power over to this gearbox here. And then to do this, we can actually set up just a situation here with belts. It's actually kind of cool, all of the crazy things that you can do with create. But just watch this. So if I have enough belts here, let me go ahead and grab 2. I can actually send power from this bottom that's down here up through this belt. And then I can send power from this belt to this, and then power from this belt to this, creating a chain of belts without using any gearboxes. I know, it looks kind of goofy, but it does work, and that's all that really matters when things are hidden like this. And as you can see, there it is. It's ready to go. It's not the fastest. You can, of course, make this incredibly fast if you need. I don't know if we need this to be very fast, though. Now, on the top, we're going to need exporters on all of these, I want to get some exporters set up. And each of these exporters are going to be feeding the specific items that we're going to need to send to this precision mechanism. So if we notice, we're going to need cogwheels, we're going to need large cogwheels, and we're going to need iron nuggets. So I need to get auto crafting set up for all of those things. Actually, from the looks of it, we already have everything auto crafted in that regards. Oh, also, if you're wondering what these are the advanced demagnetization coils. They are pretty cheap to make, and I have them around this stuff, preventing my magnet from picking these items up, which is really, really nice. It kind of just prevents my magnets from working in that area. Anyways, I know that was a side trip here, but let's talk about this. So all I'm going to need is to set up each one of these, and I want to do it in the order that it's rotating. You can see it goes from left to right. I have this going from left to right, which means I'm going to set this up in this stage. So we have the small cogwheel on the left. So I should be able to drag that into here and then make sure to put a crafting upgrade in there. And then we should, once we get this hooked in, it's going to all start going in. And then we have the large cogwheel, which also is going to need a crafting in case we run out. And then nuggets. And that should be pretty straightforward, right? All of this. It's going to keep these always in stock. And always creating the precision mechanism. This only holds 64, by the way. So it'll only keep a maximum of 64 stored in here at any time. Now on the back here, this is where things can get a little bit interesting. We're going to need the exporter to send sheets into the item vault. And then I'm going to use an importer to pull the mechanisms out. So I want the importer to definitely pull the mechanisms, but here's where things get interesting. There's a bunch of items that this can break down into that I'm definitely going to need to add to this list. I don't have a full list of all the items, but I'm pretty sure a couple of them are, let's see, the base andesite alloy and stuff like that. Like, I definitely know that's a byproduct, and we want to make sure to pull those things out. As they start to build up on the belt, we'll start to see them right away. And then we just need to make sure to put that into this filter over time. I'll have to figure all of that out here soon, but there should only be a set list. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you what that random 20% salvage chance is. I really wish it showed the list of items that salvage could be. Now, over here on the export side of things, we're just going to do sheets. Gold sheets. And I don't know if these have to be any particular kind of sheet. Does it automatically correct for the sheet? Let's see. Gold. Let's take a look. I think we're going to be sending it through thermal. So I definitely want to make sure that it is going through a multi-servo press and pressing that into, yeah, the thermal series plate. So thermal and sheet gold. There we go. And so we're going to send this, but I want a regulator upgrade because I want to limit how many of these sheets are going in. And I want to limit that to specifically one. For right now, one at a time, it needs to try and put in there. We're also going to need to put a crafting upgrade to make sure we craft said gold plate upon request. Now, the other thing we're going to need to do is get a detector. And the detector is then going to shut this off right here when it receives a certain amount of precision mechanisms. So I'm going to grab the create right here. And do the mechanism. Oh, goodness. Turn that off. That's create. The mechanism. Perfect. And let's do 16 for right now. And the reason I want to make sure that this is flowing correctly is because there's a problem with this particular item vault. It can overfill. It can overfill. And then if it overfills, our precision mechanism will not rotate through this process and will not continue rotating until done. And so that will leave it in a state of chaos, in my opinion, where it'll just be deadlocked and unfortunately not work anymore. So I want to make sure this exporter shuts off. So let's make sure it's 16, emit a signal when it is above 16, meaning there will be 17 technically in there. I can probably set that to 15 just to make sure. And then once there's 16 in there, it will definitely shut off, emit a signal. And then we want to make sure this is set to only work without a redstone signal. So once it receives a signal, it'll shut off. So only work without a redstone signal. And there we go. So all we got to do is get this cable hooked in, and hopefully this will jumpstart the process here. Now, before I get this all hooked up, there is one more thing I want to make sure that happens. I don't want precision mechanisms, when they're complete, to come back through here. So I need to set up a filter for the precision mechanism right here. And I need to make this a deny list. Do not let regular precision mechanisms through. Do not. So deny list. And then we hit accept, and then we should be able to put that inside this filter slot. So now it should only be gold sheets and uncompleted precision mechanisms, because they all have their own data depending on what step they're going through. So I'm ready to get this system started, and I should be able to do that by simply putting a cable here. And there it goes. It is going to start the process. I wish I could slow it down. I want to make sure that this doesn't overfill with sheets, which it's probably going to do. There it goes. It's probably ran out of current sheets that we have available, so that should definitely slow things down a little bit. Getting all of these guys put in. And oh boy, it has stopped going in. So we've ran into some sort of problem. Okay, so our importer, for some reason, is detecting the unfinished precision as, yeah, it's weird. It's actually thinking that these are still the precision mechanisms, even though they're in the incomplete ones. Oh, I have it set to blacklist. We need to make sure this is set to whitelist mode. Oh, okay. So on this, I'm going to go ahead and put these in here temporarily, and then I'll remove them once they're all back through. That should make sure it's importing those successfully. So there's already some precision mechanisms, which is exactly what we want. And did I put the crafting card in here for the golden plates? I hope I have the auto craft for that. I'll have to actually check here in a minute. So that final one get pulled out. Come on, I'm waiting for it to go. For some reason, it's not automatically pulling out. There it goes. Okay, so now I can remove this from the setup. Okay. So, with that, I mean, I guess we could detect at the same time if there is one of those mechanisms. Okay, so here is an example of one of the items that is technically salvage. So we need to make sure to put that in there. And we're going to see those items build up. But I think as of right now, it's ready to go. So if I go back down, I just need to make sure and check that in my auto crafting areas, where I have my plates being produced, this right here, that gold plates are one of them. Yeah, which I don't have the autocraft set up for. So gold plates, let's just make sure to get an autocraft set up for it. Put that in there and we should be golden. That's so cheesy. I know, I shouldn't, I can't help myself. So there it goes. It just did the request. But once we get 16 precision, we should be fine. It's 27 times 3, I believe. I think there's 27 slots inside of a barrel. And so there it goes. And it's going to do its thing. It's going to go through the process of producing these, and we should be good. And so as you can see right here, this is not flooding or anything like that. And the detector is able to detect that we now have over 16 of them in there. Basically 20, because it is going to do a little bit over before this activates. And so we're keeping 20 in stock, which is great. And this is able to keep up, and we'll always have those 20 in stock while we're actively using them, which I believe they are used in this final crafting setup with 20 of them. As you can see right here, this is where they're going to get used up a lot. So we may need to increase how much is going on in here. And if we start encountering other issues, I may have to refactor the way this is set up. But right now, I think this is working. Oh my gosh. There's a golden clock that just showed up as scrap. Oh no. I'm going to have to just basically check what all can be salvaged. Oh goodness. By the way, I looked up the salvage, and apparently it can be golden sheets, andesite alloy, cogwheels, shafts, crushed gold ore, gold nuggets, iron ingots, and clocks. So Yeah, there's actually a lot it can be, and more than we actually have slots for. Actually, we have the exact amount that we need. These are apparently all of the items according to the wiki, which I don't know if it's fully updated or if this is exact. But these are apparently all of the items that can be salvage, which is pretty darn cool. I would just wish it showed it in game. By the way, I'm also going to add all of those items to this filter list so we don't have them constantly rotating out, because it makes the importer have a hard time pulling them out when the items go into the vault so quickly and then immediately pop back out. So definitely want to set all of those scrap items that I just mentioned inside the filter list. So now for the moment that I've been kind of saving up for, and that is making the SPS, or the supercritical phase shifter from Mechanism. I want to put it right here in the center of the room. It is going to take up some space, but we're going to have plenty of space. So it's going to be this big ball in the center, which is kind of cool looking once you get it all powered up and everything. But now we shouldn't need to send these any more of the waste that we're producing. Instead, we're going to send the waste to the supercritical phase shifter. Or well, actually, we're going to be sending the waste into the solar neutron activator. And then this material, I believe, gets sent, right? If I take a look at antimatter, yeah, the antimatter comes from the polonium. And so the polonium comes from the solar neutron activator, which we already have set up. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to route this pressurized tube that this is connected to. And we're going to need to route that to the supercritical phase shifter. Now, I should have enough that has been building up while we were working on the other stuff. So yeah, I only needed, I believe, 240 polonium pellets in order to make the 60 cases that I need. I believe I need 60 in total because I need 12 apparently for the crafting materials. I'm using the wiki, by the way, for these numbers. If you're ever wondering where I'm getting a lot of my information from, especially with Mechanism, it's through the wiki. It's just so much information to remember every time you play, especially when it's towards the end of most mod packs. But I'm utilizing that. You can check it out. It's the all you have to do is type in like SPS Mechanism, and it'll probably be the first link that pulls up. Pretty simple website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get the automated crafting set up for that, because I'm definitely not handcrafting that stuff. It is a lot of crafting. You know what? While I was crafting this, I was taking a look and seeing if I could even do the industrial foregoing reactor. And unfortunately, I don't think I can. I don't think there's a way to get to the end. And so I can't even gather Dragon's Breath. There's no crafting recipe for Dragon's Breath in the pack, so I'm sort of limited. I can't actually use the Halitosis generator, which is one of the generators that you're going to need. I don't think there's a way to generate Dragon's Breath in any way. So I guess what we might end up doing is building maybe more than one steam turbine, and then just sending the power to the maximizing the steam turbine for one, which we're going to have to make sure we maximize water, and just trying to use what power we can from the like 2 million we're going to be generating or whatever from that. I mean, there's only one option, and that's to make the fusion reactor, and that could generate a lot of power, but that requires a massive setup for that. And I've also never made one, and I'm very unfamiliar with it, so explosions would be most likely happening, which I'm super scared of. So without further ado, we're gonna have to figure out the power, as I thought I was gonna be able to make the recipe there. I don't know, I might, I don't think that was something that was given to us, right? We didn't get that as an EMC, as like halitosis. No, we did not get Dragon's Breath. Man, I almost want to add EMC to Dragon's Breath somehow and make a crafting recipe for it, because I feel like maybe that's an oversight in this pack. Anyways, building out the SPS is sort of like this. We have the reactor glass. It's a 3x3 with 3 on all of the sides added out. And then this gets put together like so. So connected to that reactor glass like that. That's probably one of the best ways to build this out, is by actually placing in the glass. And then the same thing is going to go here. We're going to have the glass. This is going to be the 3x3 like so. It's basically like building out the create crafter, the 21 block crafter. And then we just fill in the sides on this as well, just like so. Bam. And we have to repeat this same pattern all the way around. So I actually think on the SPS, on the wiki, it is 60 plus 12. So in reality, we needed 72 of these casings because I only made 60, which we also needed them for this case, which costed 12. So yes, I had to make more of them. So there we go. I have everything sort of placed in here. Now on this side, I want my input. This will probably be the closest place to put the input here. And then we can have the output on this side. This is where we'll process antimatter. And how about on the bottom we do, which will kind of be cool looking. We can put the bottom in here. Now the bottom, we can be inside. We need the supercharged coil to go onto here. And you can get by with only one supercharged coil. I believe the supercharged coil supports up to 400 million on one, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong there. But it does support a lot of power, and it can totally get by with just that. Now, I'm going to need a point. And this point is going to be connected to our red channel, I believe, which is going to be pulling out of this induction case. But it's also going to be pulling out of all of our other power sources. And so I want this to be on a negative priority, -1, lower than any other priority here, meaning that it'll send power to everything else, and then it should send the rest of the remaining power to this machine. And I may have to set a limit depending on if it completely wrecks our entire network or not. But this should definitely get that up and running. Once there's enough power to be spent on this, it should then pull. So I've got to do the process of getting this machine. I got to get this cable routed over here. Of course, we can upgrade the cable. We are going to need pressurized tubes. I can use ultimate pressurized tubes. That's fine. I just got to make sure that it connects into here and doesn't create radiation. Shouldn't connect into that, even though that's empty. Let's see. That is completely empty, right? This machine. Oh, this machine's still working. Let's make sure that is empty. Believe that is no longer producing. Shouldn't have to worry about breaking that and causing radiation. It's like the worst possible thing that could happen is radiation right now. Okay, so that's irradiated as you see here. And we just need to get this moved over. And I'm going to run that up through here. And if I can get it up to the roof, that would be great. I want it connected away from everything. I don't want it to accidentally connect into each other. There we go. That green particle is super nerve-wracking, by the way. All right. So route that in. That's connected. And there we go. Whew. And there we go. It's up and running. So it is going to utilize the power here. It looks like it's using 131 million. Definitely don't want it sending 50-something million to this. Let's not bypass limit. Let's definitely limit this. And we don't want it using any more than like 500,000 RF right now, because we just aren't producing enough power to really keep up with that. We do have a lot stored, but whew. And then I also want to definitely make sure that this sound is reduced, because that can get quite annoying. So there we go. We are slowly but surely producing. You can see it is producing 1 little millibucket of antimatter. 1 millibucket at a time. Very, very slow. It can go faster than this, like given that you have enough power, like I've said. But yeah, that's basically it. We're sending all of the fluid to that. Now this is going to sort of stop. It's going to eventually fill this whole container up. I did shut this machine off, and so it's going to fill this whole container up, and then it's going to start sending the rest of this over here. And then I might run into another problem where I just simply do not have enough power to produce. And then in that case, I will have to turn this system back on in order to use up the residual that's been building. So lots of stuff going on here, I know. But it is a pretty cool looking thing to have like in the middle of this room. I think it's pretty cool. And while we're working on all of our other stuff like singularities and making sure we're generating enough singularities for all of this stuff, I want to at least enough to make this creative tank. Thankfully, once we make our first antimatter, we get 2 other antimatters. So in reality, we only need to make 4 antimatter, and then we'll use it on this, which will need the equivalent of 40,000 ingots of all types, I think. Oh, no. Oh, wait, no, these are actually really nice. These don't require the singularities. Oh, so this process is going to be pretty simple. Oh, I was thinking it was going to be a lot harder than this. We are producing everything except for this refined radiance, and that's actually a really easy process to make. So refined mixture is super easy. This is just a simple autocraft to produce a fluid, and this is literally 2 create processes as well that are super easy to do. Okay, so wow. We just have to wait for the antimatter, really. These final shards are not as bad as I was thinking they were going to be. Yeah, man, making the creative chemical tank. That is going to be so nice. Then we can just literally not need to worry about all of this. Well, guys, with that, we're going to have to call it an episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you learned something. I know I try my best to explain things the best as I know how, and I hope you guys learned something. If you did, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below if there's a way that you would have done things differently. Also, maybe let me know, was halitosis, do you feel like halitosis was sort of left out of here intentionally or just kind of overlooked? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below. I feel like that reactor is such a fun reactor to build every time. It's like it's a rainbow generator. Super fun. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed, like I said. And of course, guys, it's time to thank the supporter of today's video. And that beautiful thanks is going to go to Joanna. Thanks so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. I thank you guys so very much for watching. And of course, I'll see you in the next one. And as I always say at the end, and I'm just repeating myself, as always, thanks for watching. Bye.